The omens must have looked pretty good for Wu Fat Kong when he left China to make his fortune. He was 15, able-bodied, and willing to work hard. 35 years later, his whole worldly fortune is here. His home, little bigger than a child's cot. On the face of it, no city in the world stands as a finer example of what almost unbridled capitalism can achieve. Government sets a few rules, taxes are kept low, and everyone's free to make as much money as they like. David Chu epitomizes the dream that's brought 6 million people to Hong Kong. A lot of his friends are quietly terrified that China's heavy hand in 1997 will crush the colony's freewheeling ways. But David Chu himself displays a thoroughgoing optimism.
I think things will be better.
Better?
Yes. When you come to visit me, you can come onto my yacht again, except it will be a bigger one.
Once, the David Chus of Hong Kong made their fortunes on the back of the colony's abundant cheap labor, making goods to sell to the world at bargain prices. Today, that's all changed. Property speculation and international deal-making is what it's all about today. The cheap goods for which Hong Kong was once famed are now produced across the border. The colony's workers priced out of the market by their kinsmen in mainland China.
The Hong Kong labor rates are at least 10 times higher than the mainland rate.
And what do you have to pay a labor in the mainland?
Probably about in the vicinity of $5 a day.
So any laborer at that level in Hong Kong today has really reached its use-by date. It's now no longer necessary to Hong Kong.
Yes, but Hong Kong's, we still need people to support the service industry in Hong Kong. We still need people to clean the streets. So, so people just shift to different jobs.
Structural adjustment is what the economists call it. The hundreds of thousands of semi-skilled and unskilled workers and their families who can't adjust to their loss of livelihood are more likely to call it a disaster. Here in the showpiece of capitalist enterprise, the spectre of widespread poverty is looming. Poverty in Hong Kong has another dimension rarely discussed in Western society, but one that strikes at the core of Chinese culture.
Without enough, just the minimum, to have a normal, ordinary, not a rich social life, they just won't have dignity. Now, dignity in this culture is very, very important. And if you don't have just that minimum dignity, then people are very shamed. They lose face. And that's very, very important.
It's people like Chung Mon whose dignity is disappearing. The very people whose sweat and cheap labor built Hong Kong into the place it is today. 20 years ago, he employed 30 people. Today, he's got 7.
而家就做唔切，而家個個月都要蝕本嘅，個個月都要蝕。而家冇乜打算㗎，即係就算係有一日做一日，一個都唔掂嘅時候，就要結束咗佢咁樣㗎。
Since he's been here, Chung Mon's rent has soared from $400 a month to $6,000. Inflation, recession, and China's cheap labor have ruined him.
而家呢個環境啊，佢又冇諗啦，97將近到啦，佢就唔理得你咁多噶啦，佢哋走頭咯，係嘛？咁你大陸接管嘅時候就你大陸搞噶啦，咁你聽日呢個，我認為呢聽日香港聽日嘅前途咧非常之黑暗㗎。
In truth, people like Chung Mon expect no help, not from the current British administration, not from the businessmen who once needed them so much, and not from China. The bleak truth is that the Chinese workers' state has no intention of squandering money on anything that smacks of social welfare, and in that they have an incongruous accord with Hong Kong's capitalist elite.
In Hong Kong, if we have a downturn, people out of a job. So without unemployment benefits, they're immediately willing to accept a job of lower pay. Do you understand what I mean? Because they have to make a living. So they're willing to take half wage immediately, whereas in a Western society it will never happen, as you know. So we can sell more products. So the recovery is much faster.
你嘅要挺佬講嘅説話，紅鋪紅一半人講嘅説話，簡直都唔紅㗎啦，係嘛？你係咪咁講啊？
Chan and his friends while away the days as best they can. Thrown into premature retirement they neither envisioned, nor wanted, nor can afford.
你打工嘅呢，顏值永遠都係低嘅啊！你加咗20%，你命夠噏車。你係嘛？你打工嘅邊度夠生活？簡直都唔夠生活，佢根本上都冇紅呢打工嘅諗過嘅啊！
They're amongst the 3 million people, half of Hong Kong's population, who live in cheap government housing. The huge estates began in the 50s, not as some philanthropic social experiment, but as a means to attract labour to Hong Kong while keeping wages right down. There's still no minimum wage, and there are no dole payments.
They do not believe in raising benefits to an adequate level. They do believe that it's important to have poverty to encourage people to work. If you don't have a pool of poverty, people can't be encouraged to work for low wages. It's not very complicated.
No, but that is, in fact, at least in Western terms, entirely cynical.
I guess it is. I guess it is.
At the bottom of Hong Kong's pool of poverty, you find the people known as the cage men. Hidden away above a Chinese restaurant, not far from the shopping paradise of Kowloon, is a hellhole for the broken dreams of Hong Kong.
This is one of the cage homes in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and this one is the largest in the surrounding area. This stretch is around 1,000 square feet, and there lives around 100 people here. I think these people cannot lead a dignified life in Hong Kong, and instead they are very hardworking individual in the past. So we think that we can do more and we should do more.
And loss of dignity is a very severe and serious thing in this country, isn't it?
I think so, especially for the poor people. When our society first contact this group of people, we find that many of them, they just want to die or get suicide, and they have no hope in life. So it is a great tragedy for our affluent society.
Today, the waiting lists to get government housing can be as long as 7 years. But some who've lived here for 30 years can now imagine nothing else.
即係我力量我都係咁開心㗎啦，我去住邊度我都係咁㗎，我唔關住係住咩地方。
我揀床位揀你呢個就係最好㗎啦，計我哋計，因為呢度單啊嘛，一啲都商務冇單嚟單下嘢啊咁之類啊嘛，咁咪又樓底下啊嘛，有啲係樓上啊嘛，我又唔中意上啊嘛， 咁啊好唔好都好啦，咁啊都係嘅，啲床位一啲都唔係咁嘅，啲間住晒嘅地方咯。不過呢度都叫做普普通通啦，天時熱就唔係幾好啦，個通線唔夠涼啊。不過我都冇所謂啊，習慣咗啫，冇乜空氣啊呢度冇乜空氣。
It's clear enough to see what's going on. Factories closing, work disappearing, an entire generation of workers facing its use-by date, and a sink or swim economy doing pitifully little for those who are drowning.
I would call this an unholy alliance when you look at the Chinese communists allying with the Hong Kong big capitalists and the British government in ensuring that Hong Kong prosperity will go only to the pocket of a handful of big business elite. And no one
Lee Chuk-yan is amongst the few prepared to take on the three big interests in the supercharged political atmosphere leading up to 1997.
When we try in union, when we try to propose unemployment assistance scheme, everyone, the Chinese government, the British government, the big business elite always say that we are free luncher, we are only looking at welfare state, but no one really propose any solution to solve the problem of the poor in Hong Kong.
If Mr. Lee's voice is a lonely one, it's because his opponents argue that the very essence of Hong Kong's society, its Chinese culture, will get it through these hard times. And in hard times, say the David Chews of this world, Chinese families pull together to help each other through.
So our tradition of each family take care of their own members with the assistance of relatives as well. This is an enormous, efficient way of maintaining social stability. To rely on our culture tradition is absolutely essential because things can be done so much cheaply within the family rather than having the government to perform the service. It's cheaper by a factor of 10, 100 or 1,000 times cheaper.
For those who've made it, and for those who still hope to, it's a view that rings with common free market sense. And for those who haven't, well, they're still wondering what happened to their dreams.